NFL players who left the league can sometimes get the itch to play again. Most of them fight it off, but sometimes they come out of retirement. Players who have done this have had mixed results, but mostly they can't live up to how good they were before they retired. In this video, we'll discuss NFL players who proved coming out of retirement was not the best idea. So let's get started. First off, Brett Favre. Brett Favre came back to football 3 times after leaving it for good. In 2007, he gave up his job with the Green Bay Packers, and then he spent most of his football career with the Packers. But in March 2008, he announced that he was leaving the team and the sport of professional football until the year after, where he joined the New York Jets. During that season, he threw as many touchdowns as interceptions, and he got sacked more than he had in the previous 8 years. After leaving the Jets in 2008, he went to play for the Minnesota Vikings the next season. His first year back was great, but in his second year with the Vikings, things went downhill quickly. In 13 games, he only threw 11 touchdowns and had a huge 19 picks. This was the shortest retirement he ever took. Instead of 5 or 6 months, it only lasted a few short weeks. Up next, Randy Moss. Randy Moss was one of the best wide receivers ever to play in the NFL. After 13 great seasons, most of them with the Minnesota Vikings and New England Patriots, he quit the NFL in 2010. After taking a year off, he joined the San Francisco 49ers in 2012. He only caught 28 passes for 434 yards and 3 touchdowns, which was his worst season in terms of stats. The NFL wide receiver, who was the best for most of 13 seasons, might have come back, but he wasn't even thought about during the first half of the 49ers preseason opener, a 17-6 win over the Minnesota Vikings. He didn't have to do a lot because his stats were blank after the first quarter, and it was the same thing after 2 quarters, followed by Deion Sanders. In 2000, Deion Sanders quit football, but he came back with the Baltimore Ravens in 2004. He did pretty well as a third corner, picking off 5 passes in 25 games over 2 seasons, but he did not have the same speed and versatility as the other corners. He showed that he could still play when he was 37 and 38, but at that point, he had nothing left to prove. Moving on to Reggie White and Ricky Williams. Reggie White had 198 sacks in his career, which is the second most in NFL history. He stopped playing after the Green Bay Packers named him Defensive Player of the Year for the 1998 season. After taking a year off, he came back to play football with the Carolina Panthers in 2000. He only had 5.5 sacks that year, which was the lowest number for any season of his career. Ricky Williams was one of the best running backs in the league, but he quit when he was only 26 years old. After taking a year off, he was never the same. Before he retired, he had 4 years in a row with at least 1,000 yards rushing and 300 yards receiving. Since he came back, he's only rushed for more than 1,000 yards once and has never caught for more than 300 yards. Moving on, let's look at NFL players who unretired. Tom Brady's announcement that he was coming out of retirement was not exactly a shock. It's happened in the NFL and other sports before, and there are no rules against it. In the NFL, the player has to finish the rest of the contract that was still in effect when he or she quit. Marshawn Lynch was a running back for the Seahawks for 6 years. After the 2015 and 2016 season, he decided to retire and posted a picture of his cleats hanging from a telephone wire. Lynch's retirement was longer than those of Favre and Brady. He missed the whole 2016 to 17 season, but you just can't trust these players. Lynch came back to the NFL in 2017 and played for the Raiders for 2 seasons. He did this because the Oakland Raiders were moving to Las Vegas. There were rumors that he would retire again, but in the end, he came back to the Seahawks in 2019. Not to mention Charles Haley. Haley was a linebacker and defensive end for the 49ers and the Cowboys. He did well with both teams. The 49ers found Haley in the 4th round of the 1986 NFL Draft when he was still at James Madison. This is often called the biggest draft steal in the team's history. In Haley's 3rd and 4th seasons, the 49ers won back-to-back Super Bowls because of Haley's work on defense. In those years, the best edge rusher had 11.5 and 10.5 sacks, respectively. It looks like his decision to retire in 1996 was well thought out, since he'd hurt his back and had a sick daughter at home. He was out of the game for 2 years before he came back to play for the Niners in January 1999. Haley then helped them beat Favre and the Packers in the wildcard round, and he came back to play for the team 1 more year before retiring for good in 1999. Let's learn more about Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle played safety for 14 seasons seasons in the NFL. He played college football at Utah, where he was a unanimous All-American. In the second round of the '07 draft, the San Diego Chargers picked him. Weddle played for the Chargers for 9 years and was named to the Pro Bowl and the first-team All-Pro 3 times. Weddle played for the Baltimore Ravens for the next 3 seasons. In each of those seasons, he was named to the Pro Bowl, bringing his total number of selections to 6. He stopped playing for the LA Rams in 2019, but he came back 2 years later to help the team make it to the playoffs and win Super Bowl 56. After winning the championship, he gave up again. Coming up, Jason Witten played for the Cowboys for 15 years and was one of the best tight ends in the NFL. He's second all-time in receptions and yards by a tight end. He announced his retirement in 2018 in a very emotional way. Witten then took a job as the lead analyst for ESPN's Monday Night Football. He was a great athlete, but he wasn't very good at being an announcer. He must have known this too, because in 2019, he said he'd sign a 1-year deal to come back to the Cowboys. He never missed a game, so he started all 16 of the Cowboys games that season. Witten caught 63 passes, gained 539 yards, and scored 4 touchdowns. In 2020, he switched to a new team for the first and only time. He played for the Las Vegas Raiders for 1 year. Then, in 2021, he signed a 1-day contract with the Cowboys so that he could retire as a Cowboy. Next, Tom Brady. So as we know, Brady first decided to quit because he wanted to spend more time with his family. In fact, he changed his mind after having one of the best seasons of his career, in which he threw for a league-high 5,316 yards and 43 touchdowns. His return gives the Bucs a golden opportunity to persuade their upcoming free agents to stay with the team for another run at the championship. It's been called unfinished business for a man who's won more Super Bowls than any other player or team in NFL history. He also has 3 MVP awards, 5 Super Bowl MVP awards, and a spot on the last 2 All-Decade teams. Coming up next, Randall Cunningham. Randall Wade Cunningham is a former quarterback for the NFL. He played for 16 years in the NFL, mostly for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's also known for playing for the Minnesota Vikings. In 2016, Cunningham became a member of the College Football Hall of Fame. After playing college football at the University of Nevada, he was picked by the Eagles in the second round of the 1985 NFL Draft. He stayed with the Eagles through the 1995 season. After 11 seasons with the team, he said he was done with football. After just a year away from the game, he came back to join the Vikings. In 1998, Cunningham had the best season of his career. He helped the team set the NFL record at the time for most points scored in a regular season, but the Vikings lost the NFC Championship game. He wasn't as good as he was the year before though, so the Vikings let him go at the end of the 99 season. In his last 2 seasons, he spent 1 year each with the Dallas Cowboys and the Baltimore Ravens, mostly as a backup player. When Cunningham retired for the last time, he became a Protestant minister and a coach at Silverado High School. Finally, Rob Gronkowski. Gronk and Tom Brady. Can one exist if the other doesn't? Gronk was a tight end for the Patriots for 9 years and played in 4 Super Bowls before he retired in 2019. He left because his mind was not in it, which was his reason for retiring. He said that his physical injuries were a factor, but that he just needed a break from football to clear his head. Tom Brady persuaded Gronk to come out of retirement after 1 season and play with him for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. He got right back into it, and in his first 2 years with the Bucs, he caught 100 passes for 1,425 yards and 13 touchdowns. Since the first Super Bowl in 1967, no teams ever played in its home stadium. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not want to just get the Super Bowl in 2020. They made it clear that they wanted to make history. No one was surprised when the Bucs became the first team to play and win the Super Bowl at home, 31-9, against the Kansas City Chiefs. And on that note, that's a wrap for today's video. What do you think of all these players who came out of retirement? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.